Hey, good morning, everybody. Thanks for coming in. Really excited about today's chat. We're going to be focused on the Bojangles digital transformation of the past 2 years. We've got two amazing guests with me who I will let introduce themselves. And here, maybe we'll start with you.
Absolutely. My name is McCable. I'm the SVP of Operations at Plein Air. So I actually oversee marketing technology as well as brand partnerships. I myself actually come from the restaurant brand side and spent my early career in digital marketing and marketing technology at Church's Chicken and Tropical Smoothie. It's actually where I've met Sergio before. So it's fun to be on the agency side, but working with Sergio on a day-to-day.
Great, and Sergio Perez, I'm the Senior Director of Omnichannel and Brand Marketing at Bojangles. Been there for 2 years, really focused on leading the digital transformation for the brand. As Kira said, really most of my experience has been doing digital transformation in the restaurant industry, and I had the pleasure of working with Kira almost 9 years ago. We're sitting in a little cube at the church's corporate office, and it's a real pleasure to be both with her and Coby to have this conversation.
Yeah.
Awesome. And for those who don't know me, I'm Coby Berman. I'm one of the co-founders of Radar. If you're not familiar with Radar, I'll give you the very quick 45-second overview, and then we'll dive into things. Our job is basically to make everything with location as simple as possible, starting with store locator to address autocomplete to when customers are on their way, for things like order firing and ETAs, all the way down to on-premise messaging to drive more transactions. In addition to that, we've got a full suite that has analytics, integrations into usual suspects like tools like Olo. Can kind of think about us as an all-in-one platform for location. Really fortunate to work with a lot of great brands, both in the QSR space, but also the fast casual space. And we also work with brands outside of QSR. We work with a lot of retailers, logistics companies. It gives us some interesting perspective. I realize we're at a QSR show. Everybody here is an operator in QSR. But I just share that because I think it makes it more interesting in terms of what we can bring to the vertical. So with that, want to start with Sergio, and maybe you can just back up and give everybody a little bit of an overview on the digital transformation at Bojangles and what the past 2 years have looked like.
For sure. So I joined Bojangles in December 2020, right as the pandemic was accelerating, if you will. And when I got a call to basically lead the digital transformation at Bojangles, one of the reasons I was very excited to go there was there was really not a lot of infrastructure. So there was nowhere to go but up. The website was about 6.5 years old. There's no mobile app, no online ordering capabilities, no delivery capabilities. So I saw it as an opportunity to have a white canvas. I said, there's a 45-year-old brand that people absolutely love in the Carolinas. So how do we create more accessibility to food through this digital transformation? So we focused really quickly on really setting the North Star. So we said, because we're a little bit behind and we've got the chicken category is very competitive, we said, how do we build a product and an experience that is really going to be focused on building to get ahead, not building to catch up? And so our North Star was, how do we build a best-in-class digital experience, both for our customers, but also for our restaurants, to really redefine the way people experience, engage, and transact from the brand. So in that thinking, we said, what is going to be our best path to drive incremental transactions to the business? How do we create more accessibility to make sure that people can get to our food faster? So we started very quickly identifying what our roadmap was going to be to build, to deliver on that goal to create a best-in-class experience. And we took a couple of different, what I would call different approaches in the traditional space, which was one, how do we make sure that we find partners and technologies that are going to help build a custom solution specific for us and the need of our customers versus going into an all-in-one solution. We thought that would give us lots of flexibility, but also it would bring the best partners to the table to build a unique experience. So who's the best at CRM? Who's the best at CDP? Who's the best at automation? Who's the best at digital wallet and promotions manager? Who's the best at location? to make sure that we brought the best thinking to the table, to make sure that we were creating, again, a best-in-class experience for both our customers and our restaurants. So in about 6 months, I think, from the time we signed the RFP contract to being live, we launched a custom-built website, custom-built app, rolled out order, head capabilities, delivery capabilities across the system. And now it's delivered about $100 million in sales for Bo, which we're really excited and proud of.
That's awesome. And maybe can you just talk a little bit about, when you started, was there a conversation that, hey, maybe we should stick with not native apps, but continue on white label, refine them? Or was it very clear when you joined, hey, we're going to go down this path and fully invest in native apps?
Yeah, so for those who work with boards and executive teams, you got to look at all your options before you go down a path. And we started with how do we just get to market quickly? Maybe a white label all-in solution, looked like the very clear path. But going back to what I said earlier, we thought about how do we build the digital transformation of the future to build capabilities to get ahead versus just to catch up to where the industry is. And as we talked to a lot of the all-in-one solutions, we recognized that there was limitations in terms of not being able to develop net new product for a specific use case you have in the brand. You are limited to a development schedule that that company would run. And what we wanted to do is really create a unique Bojangles experience, because our thinking was, if somebody doesn't stop by a restaurant for whatever reason, and the only way they will experience the brand is through our digital products, how do we make sure that we deliver on the brand equities that we have to offer, like Southern hospitality, like personalization, like just overall being a hospitable, fun brand, and white label and one solutions keep you in a box. That you change your logo, you change your font, but it doesn't give you the ability to maximize personalization, creating meaningful experiences for the customer that ultimately are going to deliver on convenience and overall closer relationship with the customer and the brand.
Yeah, and Kira, I imagine from your standpoint, this is a conversation you had with Bojangles 2 years ago. You're probably having it today with a lot of different brands, even here. Any tips for this group, how to navigate that, and maybe specifically how to think about the ROI for a big upfront investment?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it's the decision you make has to be the best decision for your guest. And I think at the end of the day, that might be a loyalty program, that might just be online ordering, and I think you have to understand what pieces make the puzzle whole. And so we really help a lot of our clients navigate those waters. Like if they have a lot of brand equity in a particular area, we want to emphasize that. And so, it could be that loyalty is the forefront because they have had that in place, or it could be that they're looking to drive more incrementality in their online ordering platform. So what we have to do is really look at the brand equity, the personality, bring that to life, and then from an ROI perspective, making sure the right partners are there. I think there's an assumption that you have to choose just one partner to do it all, and I think that's really where we're seeing a big transition over the last, I really think in the last 12 months. It's about knowing the customer now, so we're seeing a lot more CDPs coming into play. We're seeing a lot more CRMs. To Sergio's point, we can bring all the different puzzle pieces together, and it doesn't have to be costly for the brand. I think it's almost more efficient to have these partners in place because you can do better targeting, you can have smarter discounting if you have the right pieces in play. So we've been navigating that with our clients. You have to be, I know Sergio and I have sat in franchisee meetings and sold digital programs to franchisees. And at the end of the day, it's about what they're spending on a per month basis and how they're getting incrementality back. And we spent a lot of time modeling those numbers for our clients. We also are looking at discounting. How does that, escalate as you're sending out different campaigns and automations? My favorite thing is they're like, okay, let's just, set up this welcome journey and let's have XYZ percentage. And is that really driving your business forward? So we're constantly looking at the numbers. We're constantly taking that back to boards and franchisees and clients and really thinking through that. So it's, again, I think Sergio hit on this during his kind of opening statement. It's about the North Star for the brand. What is the point of it? What are you doing all of this for? And how are you going to continue to grow? And how are you building it for a scalable future?
Yeah, and maybe it'd be helpful to just talk about the franchisee funds as it relates to investment in digital, investment in technology. I know that's a topic a lot of operators here have to navigate. How you thought about putting the bill in the beginning and some of the decision making around that.
Yeah, so franchisees don't like paying fees. That's not a hot take here today.
Yeah.
And so anytime you bring a new investment, franchisees will ask the question, how does this benefit me? And how am I going to get a return on that? And what we did at Bojangles, so it's a little bit different for everywhere else I've been, is we decided as a brand to invest in building capabilities, building all our platforms, and really prove to franchisees that there was incrementality in the business, that we could improve throughput by driving additional transactions, that we can leverage the personalization to help improve check. So for the first 2 years of our program, we decided to invest in that and make sure that we brought franchisees along. We also launched a digital task force, which was comprised of franchisees that were a little bit more tech forward, but also some franchisees that were maybe some more resistant to change, and we wanted to bring people to the table to hold us accountable, to be good stewards of the brand. And by bringing franchisees along, what helped for us was create advocates on the ground. So when the franchisor says, hey, this is a great program, franchisees always look at you like, well, yeah, you're the franchisor. But when they hear it from a colleague, it makes a big difference. So we spend a lot of time modeling out how you can get a return on that spend. And the way we think about it is, it's not an expenditure, it's an investment to drive sales. And that is how we've positioned overall fees for franchisees, because if we build the capabilities, if we can drive more digital transactions, they're highly incremental in our case. Check is about 2.5 times what it is for an offline transaction. So there's real value tangible from a sales perspective, but there's also local tools that they can leverage. So if they want to send a local push notification, if they want to send a local offer, we are also creating tools for them to be able to feel like they can maximize that platform at a local level.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And as you sort of democratize access to tooling, do you find that a lot of the franchisees want to adopt that, or they sort of want to leave that at the corporate level and let your expertise take that?
Yeah, I think for every system, there's a mixture of types of franchisees. There's franchisees that are very sophisticated and have large organizations. Those are the ones that tend to take advantage of these tools in a more meaningful way. But there's also the scrappy one, restaurant operator that's looking to, make an impact on a, short-term weekend because they have a fundraiser or they have a local deal, with a local school. So I would say there's no real standard. It's some franchisees take advantage. Some people say, you're the expert, take care of it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. One of the things we touched on earlier was this notion of when you decided to make the investment, the org basically said we want to adopt best in breed technology and we want to go work with the best partners in each category. Kira, you mentioned, hey, it seems like every day we're reading about a new CDP, we're reading about a new marketing tool, the amount of venture funding sort of outrageous in the technology space, and different providers popping up for restaurant tech. I don't know how anybody keeps track of it, and for all of us in here on the technology side, I'm even overwhelmed. Mm-hmm. How do you think about curating that type of list so that your customers can ultimately have choice, but not be overwhelmed with meeting 20 different providers that have very similar functionality?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny because we are very platform agnostic, and we pride ourselves on that because there are so many partners in the restaurant space in terms of technology. There is no right answer in a lot of these solutions. Like I said before, it's about the brand, it's about what you're trying to achieve. I think at the end of the day, we all know, and we use this term often, we all work at the speed of restaurants, so we need partners that are going to pivot, adapt, and change with the brands. And if you can't find a partner that's going to do that, or if the partner you currently have isn't able to really function in that manner, you're not going to be able to scale. And so we're typically, thinking about not just the next 6 months of this program, we're thinking about the next 24 months. What does it need to do? And then we're able to then help curate from there. There are so many different solutions and pieces, and my brain's a ginormous integration map of where does this data come from and how do we then visualize it on the front end, or how do we make sure that we're collecting the right information in the CDP that then is going to power a journey. I think at the end of the day, finding the right strategic partner in your business and how your business functions is hugely important. So at the end of the day, it's about partnership, finding the right people, and going from there.
Yeah, and if I might add, I think, you come to these conferences, you talk to lots of vendors, people are trying to sell you all the time, and what I hear often from colleagues is everybody says they do the same thing, but a little bit differently. So how do I choose the right partner? And two things that helped us identify who the right partners were going to be. One is we looked at what our infrastructure was, not just from a technology perspective, but also in terms of our franchisee system and the needs of the business. So who is the best fit in terms of sharing core values, being able to move at the speed of restaurants. And then the second thing that we looked at is, or the second thing that really helped us was really setting very clear expectations for our partners as to what we wanted them to solve specifically. We treated it like, instead of an RFP, we wrote it like a brief. It was, look, here's the strategic objective, here's what we're trying to accomplish, here are the timelines. So by giving people very clear direction and having a very clear North Star, it makes it very easy for you to go through the list of vendors and say, look, that matches, that doesn't match. And it accelerated our process because we knew we had clear intent in what we wanted to accomplish. So that really helped us move along much quicker and make a decision that was good for our infrastructure, but also good in terms of what we were strategically trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I think one of the things sometimes people glance over is just when you're thinking about an RFP and tools you're going to bring in, how do they integrate? Are these direct manage integrations? Is it, hey, this is a webhook and you can kind of set it up, we integrate with anything? How many customers are using the piping between these two tools? Yeah. You never really want to be the first, unless you're interested in sort of pioneering something. And so, being able to do that level of diligence is really critical. Maybe switching gears a little bit just to the app experience and some of the core features that you developed and things that have shipped the past few quarters. Can you talk a little bit about accessibility within the app, and then also, Bojangles has such a loyal fan base, I think 32 years of consecutive sales growth, how you're developing digital products for a new emerging and younger customer?
Sure. So the ability to create a custom solution give us ultimate flexibility to create a digital product that matched who the brand is. So we went to designing every single icon, every single piece of functionality, copy, content, animations, all of it laddered up to our headline, which is It's Bow Time, to make sure that we're bringing people together around fun, events or environments. And so a lot of what we built is how do we make it easy for people to, at a basic level, find the location where they want to order, have enough customization within the menu to create their own experience, and then, leverage, the data to make those experiences richer. But ultimately for us is building a program based on a customer data platform at the center of our experience is a bit of a different approach. Most brands are building it on a points, machine at the center and then deciding what to plug in. We believe that by starting with the data, we're able to, make smarter decisions from an investment standpoint. We're able to make smarter decisions from a menu perspective. We're able to make better decisions in terms of the flow of the overall experience. So we are really focused on how do we maximize that data to accelerate digital growth and making sure that we're delivering meaningful experiences to drive that conversion. And we think that between copy, content, and an easy-to-use experience will be the path to getting to that accelerated growth that we're looking for.
Yeah, I think there were two things when we met that stood out. I think one was this idea of differentiation and not trying to just copy paste what everybody is doing and kind of staying true to the brand roots, but also, I don't know about people in this room, but like I find loyalty points, currency like getting more and more confusing with each iteration of that. And I think as just a customer, that can be a really frustrating thing, is to accumulate all of this currency that I don't really know what it's worth. And thinking about, you talked about how simple that value exchange needs to be to the customer. I don't know if that's something that, is part of the Plein Air strategy or makes its way into.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it has to be adoptable. And I think, and this also ties to, it doesn't just need to be the program itself, it needs to be how you communicate the program. What's their incentive to use the platform? How do we really continue to gain their retention and reduce their latency? And if you make it too complex, it's only going to really matter to the highly loyal guests. You want it easy for the day-to-day user, you want it easy for the month-to-month user to really be able to engage with the platform. So make it friendly, make it usable, and find out exactly who your audience is and what they're looking for out of a loyalty program, or what they're just looking for out of a brand relationship. It could be as simple as, I really just want free delivery, and you'll get an order from me every single week, instead of trying to drive them into some sort of points or currency-based piece. But again, it's really about the audience. There are different fits for different brands, and there's no wrong answer. It's as long as it's based in the data and the actual guest experience. So.
Yeah, and I think you bring an interesting topic up in terms of the overall construct of loyalty programs in general. We actually spent about 1.5 years in research looking at this, and what was very clear from customers, there's a couple things that were important. One was the flexibility to use the program in your own terms. What that meant is, look, brands send me deals for items that I'm not interested in. The best example of this is Kids Eat Free. How many of you have gotten a Kids Eat Free email or offer, but you don't have any kids at home? And it's like, that's a waste of a communication, but it also shows that you don't know who the customer is, and you start to lose credibility from that perspective. Yeah. So ultimate flexibility in terms of giving people the opportunity to use the program in their own terms was a big thing that came out. Two, simplicity of explaining the program. So when they don't understand it, and we heard from customers directly said, I want to be able to explain this to my husband or my son or my friend. And when you get to 1 point equals, or $1 equals X number of points, then 1,800 points equals X, how do you explain that easily to, someone who you want to take advantage of the program? So I think that was the second thing that really rose up to the top. How do you make it very clear for somebody to explain the program to someone else? And then the third was around, the flexibility in terms of program structure. So almost a Frankenstein or a combination of maybe points, maybe benefits, not looking at a one-size-fits-all was something that also rose to the top in terms of, I engage with the brand very differently than you, but we're both on the same point structure. So, how has that benefited me? So those were the three things that came out from the research that we helped, put into motion as we look at our loyalty future in the next year.
Yeah, I think one of the common themes here is the investment in the CDP, the customer data platform. It's a signal that it care about the brand feeling like it's paying attention to the customer. Right. And there's nothing more frustrating than getting a promotion or a call to action that doesn't match your taste preference, your order history, and being able to match those things is really more of a data problem than incentivizing with the right loyalty actions. And I think that's a different way to look at it.
Well, and let's not be naive. I mean, we all experience this in retail every day. Like, we all get, you've abandoned your cart, or this might be something you're looking for in terms of shopping online. There's an expectation now for guest behavior outside of just the restaurant industry that we have to take into account. And so we're just behind as an industry getting into the customer data and actually delivering personalized communications, but also experiences on the website and apps. Are we actually delivering the right menu items? Are they adding the right products to cart? What are the upsell opportunities? How can, as you said, squeeze just a little bit more out of every single guest, and how do we drive additional incrementality? So it is something that we need to be paying attention to because other industries are already there. It's an expectation.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things we talked about earlier was just also how this restaurant format is changing and introducing, not just technology and mobile app, but technology that's connected once you're actually at the location. Can you talk a little bit about investments in the newer locations you're building? And then, Kira, maybe just forward-looking where you see that going over the next few years.
For sure. I think the headline for me there is, it doesn't matter how good the digital experience is. If you show up to the restaurant and you don't fulfill that promise that you made from a digital perspective, you're in trouble. And so one of the things that we've done closely is work with operations to make sure that there's alignment there. But I think in terms of short-term gains for the industry, location technology is going to be super helpful in terms of improving order accuracy, improving wait times, freshness and quality of food. When you look at the comments that people leave after digital transactions, and this is not specific to us, but as an industry, is order accuracy, freshness, or how hot the food is, and then wait time. Those are universal across the board. So we need to think about how can we leverage location technology to be able to shorten those times, those wait times. So people are ordering online, they want to get in and out. If you're going to make them wait, then why did they order ahead in the first place? So we want to make sure that we are bridging that gap because while the digital experience will help drive traffic, operations needs to help us deliver on that to retain that traffic. And it's really how do we make operators more aware of speed, accuracy, and quality. That's going to be, in our opinion, the most important thing moving forward.
Yeah, to everything that Sergio just said, I think it's hugely important. I think we're seeing it every single day. I think it also goes back to personalization. I mean, we're also seeing digital menu boards show up in a lot of different restaurants. What are our opportunities there? I've been having conversations about like order ready boards and how do we make sure that we're using technology to make it as seamless as possible for guests. So there is a lot that all is interconnected and can be using the same tools and really still sits at that center core of the customer data and making sure that we're able to influence, buying decisions and frequency, which is what we all care about and trying to drive sales. But there's just more and more that's going to continue to show up. But at the end of the day, it is about the in-restaurant experience and how the product comes out. So whatever we can do to make that more efficient and productive for a guest is important. And so technology definitely plays a key piece into that. I mean, there's a lot of tools, even like Radar, where, hey, I'm within the location, just having the app show up and you're like, are you looking for this app to like redeem points or things like that? Those small moments really impact the adoption of the technology as well. And so we want to make sure that we are always thinking about the little nuances that go to it, and also where technology is going. I mean, I'm sure some of you have the new iPhone and the new operating system, and there's a lot of different modules that are coming out. There's a lot of different ways to make sure that we're making it super easy to notify guests of different opportunities and just make them feel more connected to the brand overall.
Yeah, I promise that wasn't a planted softball question, but it ended up being really nice Radar value prop. I think one of the things that kind of comes to mind for me, I've only been working with QSRs for maybe the past 10 years, so people here have a lot more experience. It is the most competitive, margin-thin, cutthroat industry, and the margin for error on orders is basically zero. And customers have no tolerance for when something goes wrong, and the amount of competitors that someone can go to, the next time is, I don't know how competitive the chicken kind of vertical is, but it's one of the most. And so we think a lot about how can we design technology solutions that reduce that margin of error, is getting it as close to zero as possible. I think that's one of the powerful things about Plein Air also having that experience in the restaurant space and bringing that to sort of how you develop and consult on solutions. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely one of the things that kind of continues to amaze me about this space. Maybe just a little forward looking, and then we'll open it up to questions towards the end. Can you talk a little bit about things you've had to say no to? 2023 roadmap planning, we all want to tackle everything. We want to tackle new, AI investments and things that people are forwarding to us. But, what's some stuff we just had to say, this is not a priority, we got to focus on core?
it was a hot topic of conversation last year, but NFTs was one place where there's lots of hype. There's lots of people saying they're going to change the world. We did an NFT project at some point, but that was one of those things that felt more like a nice to have versus a real value add. So that is the frame in which we say yes and no to things. Is this real valuable for the customer? Is it valuable for the restaurant operators? And if it's not, and it's not going to help us achieve the overarching objectives, then we don't want to. The juice is not worth the squeeze to build capability that is just going to be cute. We want to make sure that we build capability with purpose to make sure that we're driving transactions.
Yeah, agreed. And I think I take it into a more tactical format. Whenever a client brings an idea to the table, we're very excited about it. There's also understanding, the question we always ask is, how is this going to drive the business? And how does that prioritize against other priorities? And so I don't think there's anything we would say, don't do this in 2023 or 2024, because I think every brand has opportunity to really stand out. Also, to your point, Coby, like, are you an innovator in the space? Are you finding, stability solutions for your guests? Are you looking to drive incrementality, scalability? We really just want to make sure, and we have those conversations on a day-to-day basis, is how is this going to move your business forward and how can we benefit from it? And so there's tons of different conversations of what's the right feature, but I don't have one that's like, don't do it in 2023 because I don't want to scare the people in this room, because I don't think that's what it is. I think it's about the brand and what they're looking to do, and are they at the forefront, are they bleeding edge, or are they looking for dipping their toe in the water? Because there's also a lot of test and learn in digital that a lot of brands go into it and they're like, this is 100% the right decision. I never go in and say 100% the right decision, because most likely we're going to change it. Most likely we're going to evolve, we're going to grow, and we're going to learn. And so I think it's, why not try is usually my answer, and pivot, because we're restaurants and we have to. So
let's open it up to the floor and maybe take a question or two from the audience. Anybody?
yeah, so I think this is a tough one because there's a lot of research that goes into this. So I don't want to there's gut feeling and intuition based off of brand. There's also a ton of research that explains that kind of customer intent. I think it also depends on your tenure within the space. So have you had online ordering for a very long time, or have you not? What are you actually trying to drive in terms of adoption? There is we always have ordering as the core. We think commerce-driven platforms is the solution. But we want to make sure that it's easy to use loyalty or rewards or location search. We have to think about all of the different branches that are a part of it. I think customer intent, at the end of the day, it's commerce. That's what we need to make it easier to drive commerce. But there are other pieces, because there are different audiences. Every brand has a different audience. So what is going to be that key factor for the brand? And it's really, we spend a lot of time strategically thinking about what those pieces are based off of the brand personality. But all of our platforms, commerce is always going to be the center hub of what we're trying to do for the platform. And that's always then based off of like data. And then we use all the other tools to then drive into the commerce experience.
Yeah, I think just from the technology perspective, like there probably are 3 different customer journeys. I open up the app because I want to, find a location, I want to go to it. Do you have tools to basically measure that someone has gone to the store locator, they've actually then gone to visit the location to just get that feedback loop? I think the second is the commerce one. Am I just placing an order? And then third is I didn't get what I'm looking for, and I, maybe went to DoorDash or something else, and found something else to eat. I think a really important thing there is just like the data collection and being able to actually report on that, because it's something we see our customers get asked a lot about from executive leadership. And I think just however your analytics tools, your geofencing partners, like whatever that is, it's possible to actually track all of those different journeys.
I guess we answered all their questions.
There's one. Yeah. So the short answer is today, how we've been able to get at that is a lot of test and learn. So creating segments of 40, 50,000 people, whatever size your database is, and deploy a slew of offers and see what people are responding to. Because ultimately what you want to get to is what is the optimal discount level that's going to drive that conversion? It might be 13% versus 15%. And the restaurant is a margin game, so you want to make sure that that 2% makes a difference in terms of what you're flowing through the bottom line. So we've done a lot of test and learn around that. What we think the future of that is going to look like, and I think AI is going to help accelerate a lot of that for us. It's going to help produce far more pieces of content and far more pieces of offers that you can deploy in a more rapid base. So your learning can be expedited by leveraging AI. So we think there's going to be a big space around that. An opportunity for the brand. In terms for us, the number one driver is free food. I mean, that is, it's easy to give it away. It's harder to sell it. But our thinking has been, that because we're a little bit behind, we're willing to invest a little bit in that discount to drive trial, and then making sure that we're leveraging that data to keep that retention going, right? So if I'm going to give you something for free, then I hope that you can reciprocate that, with frequency and a long-term plan. So anything you do from an offer standpoint, my recommendation would be for you to not forget about after that redemption happens, you need to think about what happens post-redemption to make sure that you're maximizing whatever that discount number is.
And then maybe, last and final question from me. Past 2 years, came to the brand, started with pretty much a blank slate. What's been, from just a personal standpoint, the most challenging part, developing the app, pushing a top 100 app out there, and then the most rewarding part?
The challenge, I think, is building. Anytime you go into this exercise and build a custom product, building takes time and takes lots of learning, takes coordinating lots of different partners. And I think that's been the most challenging, not in a negative way, but it's given us a lot of muscle to how do you coordinate across different technology partners to deliver on the brand vision and the strategy. And that's been an area where, if I had any advice for folks is you've got to be very clear. You've got to set real clear expectations. You've got to set real objectives for your technology companies or partners to make sure that you're delivering on that. So that, for me, it's been, a big opportunity. I think the most rewarding thing is, being able to drive the business. I think, when you talk to franchisees and they say, look, my sales are up, 6% on a year-over-year basis, and the vast majority of that's from a digital perspective, we're making an impact. And I think the beauty of the digital space is you can actually track the impact you're having to the business. And, downloads, all these KPIs matter, but the thing that matters most is being able to drive sales. And when you're able to make an impact in the business, that's ultimately, franchisees will talk to you all day. They'll be willing to spend the dollars so you can show that you can make money. And so from that perspective, seeing an impact is great. But two, as a brand that has a big fandom, the ability to create more accessibility for a brand for customers to make sure that they can say it's bow time more frequently has been also equally rewarding for us.
When it comes to challenges and reward, it's to Sergio's point, we are rewarded when our clients succeed and they meet their business goals, and that is just as fulfilling for them or for me as it is for them. When it comes to challenges, I think what people become fearful of are the unexpected obstacles that do come up with technology. And it's going to happen. It's how you are able to climb over that barrier and continue forward and find ways to pivot. I know I've used that word, but it is what it is. I have not gone into a development project, not without trying to be 100% perfect. There are things you just don't know because there are so many different pieces of technology. We're talking all the way down to the restaurant level with POS. How do we make sure that our North Star is still our North Star? So I think the challenge is just the unforeseen obstacles that you can't plan for. But I personally love a challenge and problem solving. So it's one of those things that we constantly are working through on a day-to-day is just how do you accommodate for that? And just being flexible to the idea of finding a way through it is definitely one of the bigger challenges. But the rewarding side is definitely seeing our clients succeed, seeing guests adopt the technology, and really seeing the business transform, because you really do start to see a shift in just the brand behavior and the incrementality and just what guests are doing. So that's a little bit of what I would say.
Awesome. I guess one final question.
Yeah.
It's go time.
Thanks, Neil.
Nice way to end it. Kira, thank you. Sergio,
Yes.
thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Coby.
it.
Thanks, everyone.
That's good.